RC for the Mountaintop Joiner Shop here. A funny thing happens when you have a large social media presence. Companies just start emailing you out of nowhere, offering to send you stuff for free. And they don't even want anything back for it. They don't ask you to make social media posts or videos, but they know. They know that because you're a quote-unquote content creator, you can't resist creating new content. So here we are. And normally when I get these requests, I get these requests from Chinese companies I've never heard of, making a product I have no interest in using, so I just ignore it. But this time around, I got that request from Boeshield T9, which I have a passing familiarity with from my previous gig in bike shops. So let's see how it does in a woodworking shop, particularly a woodworking shop that is a little bit more hand tool heavy. So first things first, I'll show you what they sent me, and then we'll go and play around with it and see how it does. So they sent me these this 3-pack here, which is a care package you can buy directly from their website, these exact same 3 products. One is the rust-free rust and stain remover. I have a cast iron tabletop on my bandsaw that's got some watermarks on it, some rust, and so we'll see how that does. I'm also curious to see how this does on things like hand planes, which have cast iron soles on them. A lot of my hand planes, I wipe them down every night before I wrap up for the day with some 3-in-1 oil. And even though my shop is very dry, over time I've still developed some quote-unquote patina on a lot of my hand tools, and that's basically just corrosion in the end. So I like to see how this does cleaning up hand planes as well. So that's one, the rust-free. The other one is the T9 waterproof lubricant. This is in an aerosol can, which we'll talk more about later, but I've used this lubricant on bicycles with great regularity for years. And I've always kind of wondered how it would do, particularly at my sharpening station. I just haven't got the chance. So here's some of that. And then I also got the blade and bit cleaner. I'm not a big user of power tools, so we won't do too much with this, but I do have some router bits, have some gunk on them, so we'll see what that's like. And then, I also got a t-shirt, which was also awful nice of them to send me. I had to dig this out of my laundry basket because I was wearing it gardening the other day and got it all sweaty. Pretty nice of them to do that. Let's go start with the rust-free and see what it does on my hand planes. Okay, so this is my bevel up smoothing plane, which I absolutely love. It's a joy to use, but that's not what this is about. This is about some of the stains and fingerprints and stuff that are on the toe of it that, despite me wiping it down with 3-in-1 oil on a regular basis, don't seem to want to go away. So we'll give this a shot. It does say on the bottle that it can cause skin burns, so I put on some nitrile gloves. I got my apron on so I don't ruin my clothes. And another thing it says is that you should apply it to a cloth and then rub that on the surface. And I'm imagining there's a couple reasons for that. One of the reasons that they give is that if it's like a big cast iron table saw top or something like that, this can actually cause some spotting on the surface if you're just kind of spray it directly onto the surface. That's one thing. The other thing that it could potentially do is dull any painted surfaces. So this painted surface here, or if you call that Japanning or whatever that Veritas uses for the hand planes, I don't really want it to affect that. So if I'm applying it to a cloth first, I can just wipe it in the areas that need it and call it good. So I'm going to spray it on this cloth with just a scrap of fitted sheet that I cut out. And I'm just going to rub it on there. It said one thing you can do is let it sit for a little bit and then wipe off the excess. So I am kind of laying it on a little bit heavy here. Let's do the other side too while we're at it. So I'm going to let that sit for a little bit. And I don't know if you could even see those little fingerprints and stains that are on there on the camera. I'll try to get some B-roll of that. I took some pictures before I started cleaning here that hopefully point it out a little bit better. And we'll see if this clears them or not. All right, so it's been a few minutes, and I've dabbed it on kind of heavy and just left it for a little bit. And it looks like it's starting to work pretty good on this fingerprint that was on the side here of the toe. So I'm going to scrub it just a little bit and see what it looks like. No, I'm still kind of seeing that fingerprint. So as far as cleaning it goes, it's a little bit improved, but so far I'm not seeing anything that's magical. This might be a case where I might get better luck doing the same thing but using like a Scotch-Brite pad, which is one of the things that they recommend. Well, I had to look for that for a little while. It turns out I didn't really have a Scotch-Brite, but I went into my wife's stash of dish sponges, which has a Scotch-Brite on one side of it, and just cut a piece of that loose. So I'm going to spray some on there and rub that onto the surface. We'll let that sit for a moment, wipe it off, and see how we do. All right, I let it sit there for, I don't know, half a minute, maybe a minute. We'll wipe off the excess and see how it looks. You can see on my cloth here that there is some dirt that kind of came off of the surface, so it is an improved surface. But is it like new again? I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say this is like new. It's just better than it was by, quite a bit, to be fair. But I'm still not seeing... Well, actually, it's pretty damn good. It is cleaning up pretty nicely now that I've rubbed on it a little bit with the cloth and the Scotch-Brite. So I'm just going to go back and forth a few times. And I think after having done this once or twice, let it sit for a minute or two, wiping off the excess, that I'm getting a pretty clean surface on here, and I'm digging that because I'm one of those people that likes it when my tools look shiny new. That's the thing, there's what looks to me to be a fingerprint, and it's almost barely perceptible. I imagine even if I zoomed in with the camera, took a shot of that, it might still be difficult to make show up. But it is still there. I can still kind of see the ghost of it there, so to speak. That kind of thing doesn't appear to be coming out very easily. And that makes me wonder what was on my finger to make that fingerprint there. What was on my hands when I grabbed it and made it do that? I have no idea, but that's pretty dang clean. All right, so let me grab something else that has a stain on it like that. All right, here's another one we can try. So this is one of my Ashley Isles bench chisels, and you can see there's some fingerprinting from where I put my left thumb on it while I'm paring, and that just bothers me. It's driving me a little bit batty, so I'm going to try to clean that off. This stuff also smells a little bit. It's kind of irritating the lungs, even though it doesn't say anything about wearing a respirator or anything like that on the bottle. Just kind of irritate a little bit. The mucous membranes. Again, does it look like it's brand new again? Not really, but it did make a big difference. It's almost completely gone. So maybe if I keep going at it... Oh, this is kind of fun. As hand tool guys, we kind of obsess about the state that our tools are in. We take really good care of them typically, because they weren't gotten easily in most cases. I had to pay good money for these, so I'm going to take care of them. And if I take care of them, they ought to last me the rest of my life. Yeah, not like new, but a huge improvement. Here's my little engineer's square fingerprint, a little bit of fingerprint right there. I also have my marking knives. I tend to hold them the same way every time. And in so doing, I get a fingerprint. There's another fingerprint on my other one that I use for dovetails. Fingerprint. And I try to clean all these with this. But yes, it is making a decent difference. So that cleaned up pretty nicely, but I really didn't get rid of all of it. Really what this is designed for, as the name might imply, is to remove rust. But it also says it's a stain remover. And to my mind, these little fingerprints are stains. I wouldn't say it's removing them completely. So as I alluded to earlier, I have a bandsaw tabletop, which you're looking at right now, that has some water stains on it, i.e. some rust. When I changed my bandsaw tires, some of the water dripped on the top, and I didn't wipe it off right away, which is my fault, of course. So you can see that there are a couple of spots here. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom in so you can see them better. Should be pretty apparent where those spots are now. And I'm going to spray my little Scotch-Brite pad, soak that up real good, and wipe it on here and see how it does. Yeah, this stuff does not smell good. I should probably use a bigger pad. This thing's really dinky, and I'm trying to clean off this huge surface. As compulsive as I am about keeping my hand tools in tip-top shape, I must admit that I don't have the same attitude when it comes to things like machines and power tools. And maybe I should, but for some reason, it just doesn't matter all that much to me how clean my cast iron tabletop surfaces are. As long as things slide smoothly across them, pretty happy. So it did make a big difference. It removed pretty much all the rust. It did make the cast iron top look like new in my estimation. There's still some spots that you can see if you know where to look for them. That's kind of been the theme so far with this product. I hope that gives you an idea of what to expect from this product. I wouldn't expect miracles. I would expect improvement. I would expect you to be able to remove rust, particularly from cast iron surfaces, more so than things like stainless. But I wouldn't expect it to end up looking like new. All right, so now I'm going to try out this blade and bit resin gum and pitch remover on these router bits. And truth be told, my router bits aren't all that dirty to begin with because I simply don't use them that often, being more of a hand tool guy myself. That said, there is some gunk and some crud kind of stuck to these, and I've retired a toothbrush for the purposes of cleaning them. So I'll go ahead and spray this on. In this case, just kind of douse the surface with them. And some of the stuff's just running right off, as you can see. Well, I haven't wiped these dry yet, but it's definitely taken stuff off of these. That's super clean. That thing looks almost like new. So I'm pretty happy with that. Those carbide cutters are squeaky clean now. The last thing I'm going to screw around with is this Boeshield T9 Rust Corrosion Protection Waterproof Lubrication. That's a mouthful. Basically, it's just their answer to WD-40. It's a penetrant. They can get deep into things that are stuck together, metal parts. It'll soak into the pores of metal surfaces as much as those pores are a thing and help displace moisture and keep them from rusting. So one thing I have an issue with when it comes to WD-40, it does prevent rust very well. That said, I have a hard time finding it in a non-aerosol version, and the same is true for this Boeshield T9. I've actually called them in days gone by, because I was curious. The T9 that they sell at bike shops comes in a little drip bottle. And I was wondering if that's the same formulation that they use in their aerosol cans. So I called them about that, and they said that it is. So the only thing that's different really is the addition of propellants for the aerosol version. And why don't I like using aerosols? Well, you just heard it, aerosols. I don't like spraying this stuff in the air and then breathing it. I don't want to displace moisture in my lungs. I don't want to prevent rust in my lungs. I don't really need that. Even though I have this little kind of pinpoint applicator for getting into tight spaces, and that might come in handy at some point in the future, I'd really rather that this wasn't an aerosol. And if I had my druthers when they offered to send me this, I would have said, hey, can you send me the drip version instead? That said, that 3-pack that I showed you at the beginning of the video, that's the way it comes. So chances are they would have said no. In any event, I'm going to spray this on a paper towel. Now, if I was using 3-in-1 oil, I'd just drip some on the surface there and be done with it that way. So got a little bit soaked in there, and I'm going to rub this steel lapping plate that I use for sharpening to get the diamond paste off of it. And you can see that it's done a good job of that. You know, I have a lot of experience with this product. I know that it's awesome. That made a big difference. That cleaned out really well. Probably better than the 3-in-1 oil does, actually. What I'm going to do after I've filmed this video and put it up, now that I see what a good job it does on these steel lapping plates, I'm going to go buy some in the drip bottle from my local bike shop, give them a little bit of support, and have something I can clean my lapping plates with, and also protect my other tools. So normally I use 3-in-1 oil, just a rag that's kind of soaked with that, to wipe down all my hand tools before I put them away. And it kind of leaves a little bit of a film behind that I find to be a little bit gummy. I don't know, it's just not thin enough. Kind of feels a little bit sticky afterwards. My experience with this stuff is that the film that it leaves behind is very, very thin and not so gummy, if that makes any sense. It does displace moisture, it does prevent rust really well. I find the surface that it leaves behind a little bit less onerous when I go to pick up my hand tools the next day. So I just wish it wasn't an aerosol, and that's just a personal preference of mine. So what is the verdict on all these? For starters, the rust-free rust and stain remover. To be fair, I didn't really use it on anything that's totally covered in rust. I don't have anything like that in my shop. And my days of digging through rust buckets at flea markets and digging out old hand planes to restore are well behind me. So I can't really speak to how well it does in those scenarios. But in the scenarios that you saw in this video, cleaning up hand plane soles for fingerprinting, discoloration, patina, that kind of stuff, it did pretty well as long as the surface I was doing it on was like a cast iron. If it was a stainless steel or something like that, not as much. So the best I can really give this as far as a grade would be is like a B. It's pretty good, does really well in some cases, but nothing miraculous. So that's the rust-free. The blade and bit, the resin gum and pitch remover, at least on the router bits that I have, worked really well. I would have to give it an A. It made those bits look like new, and to be fair, they weren't super gummed up because I don't use them a ton, but man, it made a huge difference in that case. So I have to give that one an A. The waterproof lubrication, their rust corrosion protection, This stuff is awesome. This is an A+, and I think I'm going to be using it in the future on my lapping plates for sharpening and on anything that I want to protect from rust. So that would be wiping down all my hand tools. I used to use 3-in-1 oil for that up until this moment, and I'm going to be using this from now on. That said, I think I'm going to go to the local bike shop and try to pick up the drip bottle version of this because I'm not a fan of aerosols, which is the reason I never really used WD-40 all these years, because when I go to my local hardware stores, all I can find is the aerosol, unless you buy like a gallon of it, which I don't want a gallon of anything like this. So that's an A+. Oh, and the t-shirt, very comfortable, very soft fabric, nice and stretchy. I would recommend it too, although I have no clue if they actually sell this by itself or not. By the way, if you want to pick any of these products up just to give them a whirl, I'll leave some affiliate links in the description. Affiliate links are a great way for you to help support the channel as well, because a small percentage of the purchase price for anything that you buy via those links will go towards supporting this channel at no extra cost to you. So I very much appreciate you doing that. It helps make these videos worthwhile to film instead of doing something else. Also, as you may have gathered from watching this video as well as the rest of my YouTube catalog, while I'm quite experienced when it comes to using hand tools, I'm not much of a machine head. I only have a couple of big woodworking machines, and my knowledge about how to take care of those machines is as limited as my experience with those machines. So if you have any suggestions for how to do things like take care of the cast iron tabletops on my big woodworking machines, feel free to leave comments to that effect, and bonus points for you if those suggestions don't require a hazmat suit. I hope that was informative for those of you that are thinking about goofing around with this stuff, and we'll see you in the next video. Now, if you like what you saw here, please hit like and subscribe. It would help me out a lot. Also hit the little bell icon if you want to be notified anytime I release a new video. And if you didn't like what you saw here, keep it to yourself, pal. Or watch one of my other videos. You might like one of those. Thank you for watching.